Hello, welcome back to the show. Annalise Swan here, Scale Strategist. Now, today we're talking about contracts, specifically contracts that actually protect your margin. Now, I talk a lot about managing expectations, and this is how we can communicate to our clients exactly what's required and not. And it's a really important document. Now, I did not understand when I started my business exactly how important contracts were. And I was kind of a little blasé, really, until I worked with a client. We 3x'd her business. For some reason, I'm not sure how or why, she expected 18x. Yes, really. We didn't get 18x in 3 months, we got 3x. And so she took me through a process with like the local authorities, like court, but not like a consumer affair kind of situation. Now, I won that because I 3x'd her business and I'd never promised her anything, but I didn't have it really specifically in my contract. And since then, I've taken contracts a lot more seriously. And the reason why I'm doing this episode is a lot of the time what we experience in business in terms of stress and burnout could really be avoided if we manage these expectations up front. And yes, we can verbalize and we can have in emails our processes and how it is to work with us and what exactly is included and what's not. I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice. This is business to business owner advice about the things to consider when putting into your contract, when speaking with a lawyer, and do get legal advice on this. But from a scope creep kind of margin, protecting your profit perspective, that's what we're going to talk about. And having it in black and white is so helpful because you can always come back to that. When a client asks, oh, can you just, guess what? Copy and paste. Oh, I just need another revision. Copy and paste. And it makes it official. It shows that you're an expert. It shows that you're professional. And upfront, people know exactly what to expect from you and your company, and you are leading, right? That's what they are. That's what they're paying for. They're paying for an expert. They're paying to be guided. They're paying to be led. So that's what this is about. So let's talk about what can happen if we get this wrong. If we don't embed this in the contract, what can happen? Scope creep. There can be lots of revisions. There can be delays with timelines. You can be waiting on things, and so then you can't invoice because you haven't done the work, so you can have delay in payment. There can be total resentment. There can be situations where you have to pay your team even though you're not getting paid because we didn't have things properly spelt out in the contract. So, given all of those things, that's why we're doing today's episode, even though, yes, I know it's not the most sexy of topics, but it is super important. If we have these things in business, if we have burnout, if we have resentment, if we have delays, guess what? We cannot scale. We cannot scale. We cannot have more profit. We cannot have more freedom. So we're going to talk about contracts. Specifically, we are going to talk about 7 things that I want you to think about when you are creating your contracts. And I want you to speak to your lawyer about, or whoever it is that you're going to talk to about contracts. I want you to speak to them. I want you to think about these 7 things in terms of protecting your profit. Now, the first one is before you do 1 ounce of work, 1 idea brainstorm, 1 anything, you are going to get payment. Yes, you're going to get payment. You're going to get payment before you do anything. Promise me, promise me, promise me. And even if they're a client that you've worked with for 2 years and they normally pay on time and they don't pay that month, even if that happens because you trust this person, I want you to not do any work if you don't get paid for it first, not after, first. And yes, I'm saying it this specifically because this exact situation happened to me. I worked with a client for 2 years, amazing client, raved about our team, left us like all Google reviews from all of her different accounts, even though we didn't ask her to, was constantly telling us we're amazing, loved the work we were doing, didn't pay. So we kept doing the work, didn't pay, kept doing the work, didn't pay. 4 months of me paying my team to do the work, she hadn't paid, still to this day owes me $8,000 US. I didn't get paid. Even though we had a beautiful relationship, even though nothing went wrong, I didn't get paid. And I don't want that to happen to you. Now, of course, you're going to make your own decisions and discernment, but that taught me really clearly what can happen in business. And so always payment first, as in they sign the contract and they pay before you do any work, before you do research, before you get paid. Please get paid. Number two, clear scope in the contract. Go into detail. Go more into detail than you think. Explain it to like my 8-year-old daughter. That's how detailed I want you to put the deliverables in the scope in that contract. So there can be no question that you have delivered what you said that you were going to deliver. So if there's numbers like 15 posts, do that. Detail the scope so specifically that there is absolutely no way that the client could say you haven't delivered and you have delivered. Make it really clear. Number three, client responsibilities. Really map out. This is really important because often clients get busy, right? That's why they've hired you. They're busy. They need to outsource. They need someone else to handle this. And so if they need to get you something by a certain time, I need you to be able to come back to something that says, I need this by this date. Because it's not fair if you're meant to do something every month for the client and you need it in week 1 and they give it to you in week 3 and then you've got 1 week to turn it around, or worse, they don't give it to you that month, so you can't bill them that month and then you don't get paid and you're expecting that retainer ongoing. So the client responsibilities is really key, that you specify exactly what you need from them before you start, exactly what you need from them ongoing. Spell it out. Again, super specific, exactly what you need when you need it. Number 4, the revision limitations. This is really important. How many times are you going to redo something if a client isn't happy with it? For example, if you do a website for someone and then they've decided everything, and then hang on, you're almost done, and then actually they don't like the color, or actually they don't like that font anymore, or actually, like, what does that look like? So this is actually 2 things. One, does the revision limitations in terms of, we're going to give you 3 revisions on this funnel in terms of the copy, and you're paying for 3, and if you want more revisions after 3, you have to pay X for these extra revisions. And revision timelines. So for the example of the website, when we're creating a website, we have a 3-stage timeline. Meaning first we will do the overall outline of the website and give them a few options, different versions of what the website might look like. And they pick one. And once they pick the skeleton of the website, they can't go backwards again without paying. So they've picked the skeleton, done. That's locked in. The next step is the placement of things within the skeleton, and more like the muscles. So once we've approved that, and we'll do it as many times as it takes for them to approve it, but once the muscles are put in place, that's it. We move on. They can't go back there. They can't go back and talk about skeleton or about muscles once we've done those things. The last thing is all the little nitty-gritty bits, the text and the images and all of that, like it's the skin, right? Once we've decided on those things, they can't, or why we're doing that, they can't go back and go, actually, I want to change the muscles. No. And so the revision timeline is really important, and the actual revision limitations for every bit of the project is important. And whatever you decide is fine. It's just about communicating that and making sure that everybody's on the same page and knows exactly what's going to happen and what's not. The 5th thing is the change request process. So how can they request changes? For us in our company, we need all of it in one go. So if a landing page goes to our client and they need 3 different departments to approve it, that's fine. But when department 1 gets back to us, we're not doing anything until partner 2 and partner 3 have all weighed in, and we want all of that information at the same time so we can go back and make the revisions at one time. So what is that change revision process for you? Make sure it's mapped out, make sure you know what works for your team, and make sure it's included in the contract. 6, timelines. Now, yes, we talked about revision timelines because that's specific to that. But other timelines, any timelines that's relevant in terms of payment and deliverables and reporting and communication timelines and meeting timelines and when you can actually be available to respond, whatever is relevant for you and your business in terms of timelines, ChatGPT is going to be your friend here. Make sure those things are in your contract. And I know I'm kind of going like a little overboard and super detailed, but I promise you, this is how we protect our profit, because these are all things that have bitten me in the bum over the last 9 years at different times. And so we solved them. But if I'd known that 9 years ago, they never would have bit me in the bum. All right, number 7, we don't ever want to plan for divorce, but we got to plan for divorce. So, termination clause. What does that look like? What is that in terms of timelines? What is the process? Who can do it? When can they do it? When is it too close to the payment cycle that you are going to need to do another month? What does that look like? So for us, they can cancel any time, but they need to give us 14 days notice. And so if there's a payment in that 14 days, then we go for the next cycle because we've already started preparing for that month, most likely within those 14 days. So that's what it is for us. Pick something that works for you and your business and your clients, and just make sure that they know upfront what that is. And they're the 7: payment first, clear scope, client responsibilities, revision limits, change request process, timelines, and the whole point here is that you are protecting your business, baby. You are protecting your profit, and you're leading, right? This is how we build trust. Clarity builds trust. And that's a beautiful thing to have in business and all of the time. So don't feel like you're being too demanding. This is actually you not being desperate, you not kowtowing to endless demands and running your business however other people would like you to run your business. This is you deciding what works for you and your company. This is you being an expert and a professional in your field and deciding, putting on your CEO pants and deciding this is how we run. And I have had only ever one person not work with me because they got the contract checked and didn't work with me. And later I got to know them a little bit and I realized actually they were just a competitor trying to have a look at what we were doing. And so that's fine. We don't need to work with everyone. I didn't change the terms of my contract in order to suit them, and either will you. So have a look at your contracts. You are not being too demanding. You are not being whatever you think, insert word here. You're leading, you're being a CEO, you're making decisions that are going to get you where you want to go and are going to protect both you and your client, right? So when you have all of this spelled out, everybody wins because everybody's really clear on what the roles and responsibilities are and what this value exchange actually is. And that's how everyone wins in business. So go have a look at your contracts, pop it on your calendar right now, please. Right now. I want you to protect this business baby of yours. That's it. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the next one.